See, hi everybody, welcome. It's Lawrence here with the Financial Thing live stream, Thursday, October the 23rd, 2025. I think that's the year, 2025. Coming to you, of course, live from sunny Florida. It is 30 degrees here, ridiculously warm for this time of year. Praying for some cold weather. It's not happened yet, but thank you for tuning in. We have a very, very special live stream for you tonight. I'm hoping everything is going to work technically because I am on a kind of a new setup here and I didn't unfortunately get time to test it. And yeah, so we'll see if it works. I hope it does. So we have Neil Faulkner from, of course, Fourth Way, and I have been trying to get Neil to come and do this for probably three years. You can't see him. Let me bring him on here. And if you have any questions for Neil, hang on one second. If you have any questions for Neil, ask away, and we'll get to them at the end. I have to figure out how to actually bring up your questions because, there we go. He's here live. Let me know, everybody, if you can hear Neil okay. How are you doing today or this evening for you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Yeah, it's funny how work has changed. I mean, you now in the Americas, you've probably just finished an early lunch, while me in Central Europe, I'm about to change into my pajamas in a minute, Lawrence. I'm going to start brushing my teeth halfway through this, just so you know.
You're not that old. I mean, you shouldn't be going to bed at, what is it, 8:30 at night? Is it 8:30 there? Is that right?
It's already got 8:30. That's right.
Okay.
By the end of this, I'll have my slippers on.
Oh, come on, Neil. Come on. So, as you know, everybody, this is Neil from Fourth Way. If you're not familiar with Fourth Way, it's a website that gives you a ton of financial background information and research based on the peer-to-peer lending companies that we've been, covering for, say, since 2015 now. So, God, 10 years. Neil really dives deep into the things that I never did because I don't have the patience or time that Neil has to do Fourth Way. And I've always followed Neil and what he's been doing. I've been trying to get him on the stream for 3 years. So he finally agreed to it. Yes.
No, I let you down multiple times. It was my fault.
And I told everybody, I said, no, it's not Neil's fault. Things happen. It's
whoops.
I put all the blame on me, so they would still love you. But if you haven't checked out his website, it's fourthway.co.uk. Neil, so I got some questions for you because I'm very interested about what your background is. Like, what did you do before Fourth Way?
Yeah, so I had a number of different roles in the finance space. I was a paralegal in insurance, so that means preparing claims for court. Then I was an insurance claims manager and an insurance intermediary. And then I moved on to be a financial investment analyst, as well as a TV spokesman for The Motley Fool, which is a money and investment website. Then after a few years freelancing, then I founded Fourth Way in 2014. That's a very brief way to sum up 15 years of my life up to that point. Hopefully my picture will be a bit better than that.
You know what's crazy? That's funny. I didn't know that you were a Motley Fool person because I don't know if you've ever watched the videos on my channel, but I started this series back in, I think it was 2022, and I did stock picking based on the Motley Fool's recommendations. I thought I'm going to take $5,000 and we're going to put together this portfolio and I want to see how it does, right? What I found was difficult with Motley Fool was that they offer so many different stocks that some of them were good, some of them were bad. You ended up kind of just being behind the S&P, right? So that was how and I subscribed. I actually was a paying subscription member to Motley Fool, so it's really interesting that you worked for them. How long were you with them for?
So that was about 4 years, I think. I did some freelance work with them after that for a few years as well.
Okay.
4 years full, yeah.
What was that like? Yes. Was that a good job experience or freelance experience with Motley?
Yeah, that was good. It was super interesting, and it was getting more into the direction I wanted. I did always find, I'm going to sound really boring saying this, but I did always find insurance very interesting. But moving more into the analysis, the equity analysis side, and other money products was It's something I'd always wanted to do. Trust
Yeah.
me, insurance is interesting when you have the right jobs in the industry. It's
I was
totally
gonna
boring as a
say,
consumer. I agree with that. If I'm buying it, it's dreadful and boring as hell. But some of
yeah,
the jobs are actually very interesting.
insurance
But yeah,
is,
no,
oof.
moving to equities is yeah. But then it does help when buying insurance equities as well. Admiral was a good holding of mine for a long time.
There you
So
go. Absolutely. Okay, so how did you go from that? What gave you the idea for Fourth Way to go from something that's kind of a little bit different to peer to peer? What was the story behind
yeah,
that?
yeah. So well, it was clear to me from the start with Zopa that it was phenomenal that ordinary people like us can take part in this old asset class, for the first time. And I'd seen, looking back over prior decades, all the innovations in investment products were basically, they have high risks, they're opaque, they've got hidden costs, and when you think of things like guaranteed equity bonds and things like this, anytime someone came up with something innovative in investing, it invariably helped the companies that created it, but not investors. So it was amazing to see something that's actually good and new that fills a solid investment, need. Um, that actually works and is has a good risk reward balance. Um, so that was it's so rare that it was kind of mind blowing. And I can tell you that I had about I had more than I can't remember, but I had over 100 business ideas previously. I'm very creative with things like that. And I'd assessed them on four criteria, which was costs, risks, rewards, and contacts. And I dismissed all of them. And then came the idea of Fourth Way, and I was like, I can't destroy this idea. Oh no, I better I better do it. And so after the panic faded, that's when I started interviewing CEOs, platform CEOs within the industry, and other people really started digging to understand the mechanics, working with a credit specialist and a credit risk specialist to piece it all together, along with tech people, of course, to get it online. And then the journey started.
So, for anybody that doesn't know exactly what you do, give us a quick 1 minute what Fourth Way is.
Sure. Okay, so we deeply assess the platforms based on mostly on risks and rewards. Obviously, look at other things as well, like uh, product features and things, but mostly we're about assessing the risks and rewards. Our centerpiece is to conduct what's called the Basel tests, which is what the global banks are required to do to see how their loan book would hold up in a disaster period. But we do a much tougher disaster period than they do. They have to do like a 1 in 20 year disaster. We do a 1 in 100 year test, assuming like a major property crash combined with a severe recession all happening at once. How well are the platform's going to do? And so that's kind of the centerpiece. But obviously there's an awful lot that we have to do in between. When a platform is listed by us, they first have to answer 100 questions, provide detailed data, go through a long interview process with all their key people, such as the head of credit and so on. They have to provide backup documentation. There's a lot of email Q&A going back and forth, background checks, all these sorts of things. So it's a very long process for the platform. So I'm not surprised that many pull out. But and then of course it's keeping up to date on that, constantly receiving their data, constantly then checking up, who's running it now, who's the head of credit, etc., interviewing them again when we need to, and keeping track of their loan book, how it's performing, how it's changing, and so
Um, so, did you invest? Were you a peer-to-peer lending investor before you started on this journey? I mean, you'd have to be, right? I mean, yeah.
on. Well, most of the time prior to Fourth Way, there were only 3 platforms around, and so I only dabbled a little then. And shortly after Zopa was founded, I moved to Germany, and I was busy adapting here. And since I was very into equity investing, all my spare investing time for my own needs was on monitoring my funds and the very small number of handpicked shares I had. I mean, it was just a simple portfolio of Money Supermarket, Admiral, Rightmove, and Berkshire Hathaway. But equities was just the field that I'd been in all that time. And then there was just a very short period before Fourth Way started where finally there were enough platforms, by which point I was founding Fourth Way. So I was focused on spending capital, not growing it, because the business required a lot of investment. So I was selling investments, not adding to them at the time when the platforms were arriving.
You were smart because that means that hopefully you got to dodge all of the crappy platforms that took a lot of us old OG investors down, right? So you kind of got a little bit lucky in that respect.
Well, maybe, but the thing is, they were never open enough anyway. So with Fourth
Yeah.
Way, so once by the time I started the process of interviewing the platform CEOs and so on, I was already getting an idea of who was going to be transparent enough for for investors. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but do these companies pay you to analyze them? Is that how Fourth Way makes their income?
Well, the first answer to how we make money is we don't make much. We have investors with over £100 million between them, and our slice of the pie is a small fraction of 1% of that. But that's kind of the point. The point of the industry is that the bulk of the rewards go to investors instead of banks and third parties for a change. But currently, Fourth Way, we have four ways to make money. So there's web and email advertising. There's a fee platforms pay us for conducting our detailed ratings assessment, the stress tests based on Basel. The third way is that some platforms pay us affiliate commission when investors click through and open accounts. And finally, we put our cap out for donations from our users from time to time, from the investors who benefit from our research. That's it currently. It only works because we make it extremely clear to platforms that our analysis and content is 100% editorial independent, and that's it. There's nothing to discuss.
Yeah.
And there's a long list of ways that we defend the trustworthiness and reputation of the business, that we don't lose that important selling point, and more importantly, so that investors continue to do very well from our information.
Yeah, that's amazing. A little bit of housekeeping. If you are watching the stream, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are not. Go subscribe to Fourth Ways. They have an email list, I know, because Neil, I get his emails. Go do that. Again, it's very nice for Neil to take his time to come do this and really share what he's doing over there in Germany with Fourth Way. Let's talk about the peer-to-peer industry right now, the UK. I'm a little bit disheartened. I'm going to be honest with you, Neil. I'm a little disheartened because, first of all, I've invested through some pretty crappy platforms when I was back in my younger years when I had non-gray hair, and I lost some money, and that was okay because I believe I put that on my shoulders. I don't kind of blame anybody for that. You know, there was some fraud going on with collateral, and we had the Lendy and the funding secure and the money thing. I was in the mall, and I'm proud to say that, and I'm very transparent about that. But I'm disheartened right now, and I got to tell you, I'm disheartened by what's going on in the industry. I'm not seeing much growth. I'm not seeing new companies open. The ones that I used to say, wow, you know, I have this top 5 list of 5 companies that I invested my money through that I thought were doing a good job. Right now, 3 of those companies, two, and I'll be transparent because I don't care, Cufflink and Crowd Property are on there, and I'm not happy right now with what's going on. No, but in general, I wanted to ask you, since you are knees deep in it like I am, what is your general view right now of the peer-to-peer lending industry in the UK?
Well, for investors, it will continue to produce stable returns. I mean, the short, medium, and long-term returns have been too good and too stable for the industry to go away, because it's been about 7.5% long-run returns and positive returns every year when fully diversified. So it'll continue to go on. But when you're looking at like individual platforms, you're going to find some which have been disappointing to you. It's really about making sure that you spread across as many of those as possible. But the industry, because of those sorts of hiccups, that's just one of the reasons, but for a lot of reasons, it will remain small for a very long time. Growth will be very, very slow. And it needs to be better at demonstrating its overall returns. That it's not widely known that it's beaten inflation every year for the past 10 years, except 22, when it slightly lost out, but still with 7-ish or so % returns after losses. And so, when you've got a record like that, beating the stock market most years, having no losing years.
So a question though, so you say it's had this 7.5%. Is that, how do you calculate that? Is that based on if you were to invest in every platform? Because that's not really reasonable, right? Because like the stock market, people are just going to have to pick what they think is. the right
No, but
investment.
it's still pretty representative. But it's that's from the numbers from about just over half the size of the peer-to-peer market in the online direct lending market. Um, so yeah, I mean, you couldn't open all the accounts, of course, but you should still have quite a lot. I mean, you should still spread across quite a lot of them.
Hmm.
And if you do that, then you're going to be somewhere along the lines of the you can
The
generally
seven,
expect
seven and a
somewhere
half.
along the lines of that. Yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
does
just
depend what you go for in
don't
the
do
end.
what I did, people out there. I was looking at those 12% returns. I was drooling at the mouth going, oh, bring it to me, Lendy. I just want that 12%, and I put too much in one and not enough in the
Mm,
safer ones, and then got smacked
mm.
around like a baby. But, that happens. That's experience. That's why we like to share these things so people don't do the same things.
But I did some figures. It was a while back. I can't remember the exact, but it was something like if you added up all of the losses that had occurred in peer-to-peer lending since Zopa started, and put them into that worst year when several of the somewhat bigger platforms collapsed, 2019, the interest paid out in that year would just about cover all the losses for all the years to date up to today. So like 20 years worth of losses paid for in one year in interest.
Okay.
So
So you just had
when
to
it's
sit
when you
on your
think about,
hands and do nothing. That was the main thing, right?
well, yeah, I mean, I, I think that the issue back then was that there was less transparency, and that didn't really start occurring till till after you'd got into it. Really, was
Hmm.
when that level of transparency that we've come to expect had really established itself. And back then, it was still quite fresh, and people were picking platforms with what information was available at the time. But now there's a lot more.
Yeah, we
If
didn't
you
know
if you
much
pick,
back then.
well, it is a learning curve. Yeah, you're one of the early movers, and you're going to take a hit sometimes doing that.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
was one of the early movers. I was reading too much
I think.
on
Look,
the platforms,
I'm sorry, but you can tell. I want to hear that, but I have to interrupt and say I think it's fantastic that you say all these things openly. It's wonderful that you do. Um,
Thank
it
you.
could be so easy to just say no, I've never made mistakes, but to go out and say that on live like this is it's fantastic. It says a lot about you. Yeah.
I'm absolutely happy to be honest and transparent because there's no point in saying things that aren't true, right? Because everybody, you know
No.
what, everybody watches this broadcast. Has I know these guys. They come every week. Most of them. They've been coming for 8 years, and we all know who was in what. And it's just the way it is, and it's okay. It's a learning experience. Thankfully, it didn't bankrupt, but it really is a good lesson in diversification, kind of like
Mm.
stocks, right? I've always preached buy index trackers for 90% of
Oh
the
yeah.
people. Just forget
Yeah.
about it, turn it off, and come back
Yeah.
in 20 years. Do you know what I've done recently? I've been picking stocks like the casino, and it's absolutely horrific. I woke up to minus 15% on a stock
Oh wow.
yesterday, or
Yeah.
yeah, yesterday. But that's I'm a little bit of a gambler, so that's a problem. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. By the way, there's people tuning in live. A lot of people in the UK, but there's some questions that tie into what you're talking about. So I'll just,
Mm. Mm.
right. I usually wait till the end, but since I can see the chat now,
It fits. Yeah. Hmm.
here's a question for you from Mr. Heliums.
Hmm.
Is the German European peer-to-peer market in a healthier state than the United Kingdom's?
I really regret that I can't answer that question because we did look at getting more involved in Europe, and we do have some contact with some of the platforms, but it simply just just too difficult. In the end, it turned out it would be like duplicating everything we did set up in the UK, and since we all have other projects, that was a little too. It was just too much and to go through that pain again. So I've got a good number of contacts, but there are hundreds of platforms, right? And so just
It's too
we
much.
just don't assess, almost none of them we assess to the extent that we do in the UK, almost
Yeah,
none.
it's too
And
much to
so
keep up on.
Germany, even though I'm here,
Yeah,
it's like, the UK is enough, really.
yeah.
So, one day I really would like to do more there, but it's at the moment it's not even in the plan. I'm
Totally
sorry, I can't
respect. No, no,
give you
no.
more.
Totally respect. I'm the same way. I just can't keep up with this too much, and the
Mm.
amount of work it goes into keeping track of just the ones that we follow here is too much. But sorry,
Sure.
Mr. Helium's.
Mm.
I think it's just different too. A lot of the European platforms are different. They're aggregators. Some of the biggest
Yes.
peer-to-peer like Mintos and Bondora are just aggregators of thousands of different loans coming from. They're not vetting them themselves. I don't think they just possibly couldn't do all of that. So
Yeah, that's right. I
here's
mean,
a
the last one I really had any contact with, based in Germany itself, was the State Guru, and they had a lot of issues going on, didn't they, with their defaulting portfolio? So,
I sure did.
yeah, so
Uh,
they didn't really
I'll
pursue a deeper transparency with Fourth Way.
okay. Yeah, we got some other questions. I'll ask a couple in a minute, but so next question for you. Do you so you currently don't invest in peer-to-peer loans, then is that correct? You're just doing strictly fourth way?
Um, just the tiny. So the only reason that I do invest, because capital is tied up, the only reason is because sometimes I need to see what is actually happening when investors put their money. So that you can actually get a feel of what's going on. It's just seeing what's actually happening when money moves through, basically.
Yeah.
So it's more research purposes than actual investments.
How
The capital investment in Fourth Way, you have to realize that, like you, I haven't practiced what I preach in that people should diversify, but basically I have a little more than one massive investment now, and that's Fourth Way.
yeah.
I wish it weren't so, but I chose to take that risk, and that's partly in my nature to give things a go, and so here we are.
If you're going to go for it in life, you got to be committed. I respect that. Let me ask you this. How do you think that the peer-to-peer lending space in the UK has changed since you first started looking at this space in the very early days of is it 2012? Earlier than that? 2000.
What, when we started?
Yeah.
2014, well, 2014 officially, yeah.
Okay, so when you started looking at it, how do you think the space has changed in the UK?
Well, I mean, the most obvious way, the two most obvious ways. The one is that it's virtually all property now, isn't it? Started from Zope with their personal loans and funding circle with their their small business loans, and RateSetter also with their sort of mostly at the time consumer loans as well, wasn't it? And now it's all real property. So that's one of the big ways. The other way is that it grew and then shrunk a lot. So it's gone backwards in that sense from where it used to be. There used to be about 3 billion just in, when you think of the wider peer-to-peer online lending, just in the peer-to-peer side there was over 3 billion, wasn't there? Something like 3-4 billion. I can't remember at its peak, and now then it went down to, I can't remember, but it's like a fraction, well, a quarter or a third or something of that, isn't it? Or something like that,
It's really
half.
contracted.
And then very slow growth compared to before, whereas when it started, it was rapid growth. So I think they're like the two big ways. Plus, of course, it is a lot better regulated and better understood. I mean, that obviously makes a difference. Now it's got a future now. Now that those sorts of, I mean, there'll always be cowboys in any investment class, but they filtered out now the big batch from, that could get in before. It was understood well enough.
So you think the industry has kind of flushed out the bad,
There will always be bad. There'll always be bad. There'll always be that aren't that good. There will also always be fraud in any type of investment and asset class. But it's that big sort of round is in the past. It's not going to be like that again.
That's good. I like to hear that. We already kind of discussed how does Fourth Way make its money. Somebody did actually put in the chat. Let me find it because this might be something for you that you're going to enjoy. This is from Chimpo Naughty. His name is Chimpo Naughty.
Oh yeah.
He is in Cambridge, and he asked. Wait, that's the wrong one. He asked, "How can we help you to continue to help us?"
Oh, any way you can. Do you know what? For me, a really big one is emotional support. I'm not kidding. Just emotional support, because it's emotionally quite draining. When you feel this pressure. I've got to make sure that that everything we do helps investors and has a net positive effect. And so for me, just emotional support is a big one. It's just so valuable. Any positive comment, I'm just so glad to hear it. Just have that reassurance.
Yeah, absolutely. I can
You
give
know,
you a couple right now. Hold on. Here's one. Wait, I saw some in here. Let me go from the top. There's a lot of comments today. Darren says, I want to thank Lawrence and Neil for this live stream. Very good
You're welcome.
information. And wait. I got a good one for you. Hang on. Invest24, I follow Fourthway's peer-to-peer platform reviews religiously. Annabelle is tuning in, I think from Spain. She says, I've long been a fan of Fourthway and subscribe to their very useful email. So, there you go. There's some nice comments for you. I'm sure there'll be more too. Oh,
yeah, no, that really helps. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Why are you called Fourthway?
Yeah. Well, we actually originally wanted Third Way, but it turns out that's used in pensions.
Oh, okay.
So Fourth Way, no, it's because the way that I see it, there are four main types of investment or saving investment that everyone should consider. That almost everyone should consider. Those are savings accounts or cash ISAs, of course. Buying your own home. Which the mathematics of buying your own home is, so long as both your personal and financial circumstances are right for that and you can stay there for a long time, then even if you buy just before a property crash, then the mathematics are still excellent that you're going to come out far better in the long run. Then of course there's equities for long-term gains, and now there's the fourth way, which is peer-to-peer lending for more stable inflation-beating returns.
There you go. That was a great name, by the way. I learned that when I first discovered your website many years ago. So that's interesting.
I don't think we even put it on the site anymore, do we? It's
I thought it was on the About Us page at one time? I did read about that. Okay, this is a good one. Explain some of the transparency issues that you have faced from peer-to-peer companies when you've been putting your information together.
Yeah, okay. So firstly, one of them is when the platforms actually get in touch with us that they want to be listed. We have a chat and share the listing process. They receive the form with 100 questions on it, a sample data set that shows them what we need, and a list of all the different people we need to interview at their company, all the supporting documentation and the whole process. And basically, many platforms just go silent at that point. And there are two reasons for that. The first is that it is a lot of work, and most of these platforms have to think very carefully, how are they going to allocate resources? They don't have deep pockets, and so I understand that for some of them they have to make difficult decisions. But the other main reason, of course, is that they see it's too risky being open with us, because they fear how they will look at the end after so much scrutiny. But in that's kind of a good form of transparency, because then it's easy for everyone. You can say, look, this company isn't willing to be open, so the answer is no. Easy. We don't waste our time having to look into it then, any of us. But there are a couple of other transparency issues that occur along the way. The first is when they simply decide to stop, being transparent, that is. But basically, the default reading of that should be cynicism. Investors should always be concerned when investment providers suddenly stop providing data or providing access. It's best to assume the worst, because there are plenty of other investments in the world that are very transparent, and that's necessary for properly assessing risks and returns and being confident later on. But another major transparency issue is when platforms shift business model to prioritize institutions. And I've just learned of another platform that might be doing that. And that's when they give institutions their data and access, but they withdraw it from us and from individuals, in which case, again, you need to think about whether that's the kind of platform for you. And I think another category is of transparency. We also need to consider what is normal. What is normal opacity, I mean? What is it reasonable that we can't get, but would like to get when doing due diligence? One of the biggest holes in transparency is ascertaining the true costs to investors. It sounds, how can they not tell you the true costs? But it's actually a big deal in all forms of investments. It's in OICs, unit trusts, investment funds, and for bonds and shares. Finding the true cost is difficult. But in this case, it basically means what is it that borrowers are paying in full and comparing it to what investors actually get, and that can be problematic.
I think what you said about the continuation of the transparency must be one of the biggest headaches, right? You get, because I've had it, I used to have a very good relationship with I won't mention their name right now because still trying to work that out, but I used to have a very good relationship with a good peer-to-peer platform that kind of dissipated. And that makes me think, now I get a little, that stomach feeling, like a little bit of nervousness because things are changing, but that continuation of the transparency, how things in this industry can really change quickly. It could happen in literally, one day everything changes and things.
We've had a list of 10 investing principles since we started. They haven't changed apart from improving punctuation and grammar, which people complain about occasionally. But basically, it says about the transparency thing is one of the big ones. But even worse is when transparency is reduced in a way. It's like you have to be even more cynical. If they used to be so open about it, why are they not? And unless you absolutely believe their reason, then you should take the most cynical reason. And even if you do, you still say, but I still also don't get that information anymore, which means that the risks have gone up. So to me, as an investor assessing this, so you need to be cynical of opacity, but even more so of decreasing transparency.
Mm-hmm. And then one other tip that I gave a couple of weeks ago was, if you don't feel comfortable, it's okay to withdraw and sit on the sidelines and do nothing.
Yeah,
you don't have any loyalty.
So important.
Yeah.
It's so important not to if you don't feel comfortable, because that's exactly when it goes wrong. It's harder to go wrong here than in, say, equities. Like in equities, if you invest when you're not feeling comfortable, as soon as the market starts to crash, you sell at a loss, and then everyone else makes money when it goes again, and it's like you've just sold at a loss. In this, often it's like, oh no, and then you try and sell, but you're only able to sell at par if you're able to sell at all. If not, you're forced to keep earning interest until it ends, and then you realize, oh, actually, it was okay. And that's often going to be the result when you invest when you're not comfortable. When you panic, you're going to be forced to do okay anyway. But sometimes it will be bad, because what you'll do is you'll sell all your good loans and just leave the ones that are currently bad, and you're no longer earning interest on the good ones anymore. And so you basically crystallize a loss on purpose. So you have to be comfortable. You have to this is the thing which investors, they need to say, how can I test myself? How can I really get my head into it? If this goes like, imagine there's a recession, imagine that there's, loans start to go bad. Imagine they're starting to put out reports that, this is a bad time and so on for borrowers. How am I really going to feel about this lending account or this portfolio of loans? And you've got to find a way to really get your head into that, because that is exactly when people go, no, they went wrong by investing without understanding how comfortable they'd be in that situation. And if you think, God, that sounds frightening, then you shouldn't be investing in that.
That's a good rule of thumb for equities too, right? If you can't sit on that stock when it goes down 20% in a day, then you probably shouldn't be investing in it.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Okay, this is an exciting one for me. What's the biggest surprise and the biggest disappointment that you have found out about a peer-to-peer lending company while you've been doing this research? You obviously have to name names if you don't want, but you're free to if you want to.
All right. So about a specific peer-to-peer lending company.
Yeah. Have you gotten anything that's really made you go, oh wow, that's really surprising in a good way and really surprising in a bad way?
Oh goodness me. An individual peer-to-peer lending company. Right. That's such a good question. I wish that I was ready for that. Let me think.
We can come back to it too if you want to ponder that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
please,
I'm going to ask you that again. Okay, if you're investing your family's money, right? So your mom, she came to you and said, "Hey, Neil, I got 20 grand. I want to put into peer-to-peer lending." Which three peer-to-peer companies would you say, Mom, I'm going to put you in these three?
Yeah, I mean, someone else, I wouldn't limit to three companies, but maybe I'd say LoanPad, PropLend, and Somo. I mean, they offer that spread of different types of property lending and different lending rates, and yet sufficient diversification and recovery potential. But I do feel it's unfair to pick just them out, and I hope no one watching this only splits their P2P pot in three lending accounts. That's unless they are very underweight in online lending, because in the end, the only thing that matters is your overall investment returns, not the performance of one stock or one loan or one fund or one lending account, which I think people do focus on far too much. It's like, look, I spread out. Some of these will do well, some will do not so well. Those not doing so well, sometimes it'll be their fault. Other times it's just part of the phase that the world or the economy is at now. But overall, that's what I'm looking for. So basically, you don't want to only have 3 lending accounts unless it's such a small part of your portfolio that you monitor as a whole.
Well, here's a follow-up question that somebody asked. This is from we call him Dividend Dave Dawson because he loves dividend stocks. How many sites? How many peer-to-peer lending sites would be sensible or recommended to invest into total?
So we sometimes revisit the numbers for that and have a look at it. It generally works out that we say at least six lending accounts from different providers, but really spreading across as many loans as possible as well, hundreds of loans or thousands if it's small personal loans or whatever. You need to obviously step it up even more if it's not large property loans. But 6 to 12 is generally the guidelines that we say. Unfortunately, our research finds that even people who consume fourth way research, still a lot of them only do 1, 2, 3 accounts. And it's quite disappointing, but we work on it.
So it's like an index tracker of peer-to-peer platforms. Just shove it in. I used to be in 20. You believe that? 20.
Oh, really? Wow.
God,
okay.
Yeah. Imagine trying to keep
That's
up
hard
with
work.
that. Yeah, and
No,
half of them,
I can't. I don't want to imagine that.
half of them were manual lending accounts, right? You had to pick out the loans. Yeah. But
oh my God, Lawrence! No wonder you've turned grey.
look, in my defense, it was for research purposes for this channel and website.
Right.
But I
All right, that's a bit different, right? Yeah.
I cut a lot of them loose, and then half of them went out of business anyway. So,
oh, yeah, right, yeah.
let's see. Okay, what other investments aside of peer-to-peer lending? I know you said you have most of your capital obviously in fourth way, but if you didn't, what other things would you be looking at that you liked?
Yeah, well, I mentioned four ways. Equities would be great. I mean, I obviously have some left, but just trackers because of no time. But I also liked picking stocks and would have a relatively small portfolio of individual stocks like I used to have, because I did really enjoy that. Just looking for those businesses that I just think are going to do really well over a very long period of time. But also, another thing, I don't follow my own advice of buying if you can, because it's a lifestyle thing. I live in central Munich. I love it here, but I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a place here in central Munich. So I won't own my own home for the foreseeable future. Maybe never. I might not even ever move out of here. So but yeah, if I could, that would be ideal too.
It's funny, Neil. I've been reading a lot of research about buying versus renting, and there's a lot of numbers that support not actually buying property because of all the stuff that people discount when they buy a house, fixing things, new appliances, all the stuff that breaks, having to remodel once every 20 years because it starts to look dated, and with taxes. And when you add everything up, there are some arguments that might say maybe renting is actually the way to go, and then you can invest the money that you were going to put down on that property and have in equity into other things.
There are a couple of counter arguments. The main one is simply that when you buy, your main cost, paying off the mortgage, that's linked to mortgage rates, which fluctuate up and down, but it's also linked to the original price you paid in the property, and it's not therefore linked to inflation. Whereas rents are, and not only do you pay them for 25 years when you could have been owning, you continue to pay them for decades afterwards, probably, continuing to rise with inflation every single month. And that's the main reason why the maths is just so unbelievably good. There are other very good reasons for it too, such as it's very useful to have this equity pot that you can take equity out of your own property while still living it if you need to in an emergency. That is there even if you're getting loads of state benefits because you have extra benefits when you're retired or whatever. Whereas if you had a load of savings or investments, then those would be taken into account and you'd actually get less benefits. So there are a lot of extra layers of defenses that owning your own home has.
I agree.
as one
There
of
are
your
some
strands of
benefits.
your policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
equities, a little bit of equities, and I'm going to ask you about that question again about the surprises or disappointments from something. If you can
Yeah.
think of anything, I just want like
Yeah,
one.
I can give you one
Go
recent
ahead.
disappointment, but
Yeah.
the thing is, it is more in fourth way, and that's being so slow to acknowledge crowd properties issues. That was from that, but yes, I'm disappointed in crowd property, but really, I'm talking about disappointment in me. That was simply, we should have done better, and we've done a lot to learn the lessons from that. But
Do you think that
yeah,
was when Mike left that was the first sign of an issue?
well, yeah, I mean, that was like, it wasn't the first sign that we should have seen. Um, but the CEO leaving isn't necessarily, you can't say because the CEO, like the CEO of Focus retiring now, and I don't, we don't have, unfortunately, don't get their data, so we can't do detailed assessment. But I don't think him retiring is means
Mm,
anything necessarily at all.
yeah.
I think by itself. Um, so I think you can't really read too much into that. Can be all sorts of reasons. But there were signs. The signs were there, and so it was disappointing. They certainly had the ability, and this is it as well. I guess they had the ability to do better
Mm,
than the results that are materializing at present. You have to also realize though that it is a very tough field right now, development lending. I mean, developers they're having their own, like, it is the equivalent of the Basel stress test that we do in terms of the impact on those sorts of borrowers. And then you look at the sort of the idiosyncratic, so the nature of their specific set of developers and all of their characteristics, and it applies to them more. But that doesn't mean that they didn't also make mistakes leading to these situations. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess it's more disappointment in me than them, but of course it's contagious as well. They started it.
Yeah, it's their fault. Don't you worry. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's very hard too because you could get overlook one piece of information that they don't provide to you, which could be the downfall of that company, right? So it could be something really small too. That I miss things all the time. A lot of the times I get emails from these people watching the stream telling me stuff that I completely miss because I can't watch everything all of the time, right? You
Hmm.
you know what that's like.
I do, but that's what I spend a lot of the time on, is looking at what information is there. How can I verify this? How can I get a different data set to see if I can get confirmation or not? What are they saying online to investors in comparison? What does this senior person at the company say? What does this junior person whose tongue is a lot freer say? All of these different kinds of things to see where all the data matches, and then reading between the lines. You want to see if they're you know basically extend and pretend and all those other techniques. Are they rolling the can down the road? Um, and what does the data show on that? So there's a lot of reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually quite a fun part. I find the psychological part fun. Uh, dealing with the people, and
The people.
it's like there was some. Oh, I can tell you something that really, really shocked and surprised me. One platform that's closed now, they didn't do well, but the guy in charge, he actually personally paid investors off. That was impressive, and he was a nice guy, as is often the case. But this was like probably the most amazing thing I've heard in all the hundreds of due diligence interviews, or I don't know, maybe 1,000 due diligence interviews I've done over the years. Um, but he was describing their credit policy, and questions going backwards and forth. And he just started laughing. He said, "Yeah, we were laughing when we were doing this because we didn't know what we were doing." And I'm supposed to continue this interview seriously, like, okay, and then just carry on asking questions. But inside, I'm like, I cannot believe he literally just said that to my face. Usually, this is something I have to work to uncover, right? To at least try. But to actually
Uh,
say that, like, most platforms like this wouldn't even consent to an interview, because they don't want to be investigated.
yeah.
So yeah, that was shocking.
I went to visit a peer-to-peer lending platform, I don't know, 6 years ago, and I was talking to the boss man, the owner, and I'm sitting there going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I thought the
Yeah.
exact. I wonder if it's the same platform. They're out of
Well,
business now
there have
too.
been enough. There have been enough of them. It might have
Yeah.
been a different one. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's quite amazing, and it's amazing. It amazes me whenever that happens because most platforms, at least, that don't have the skill. They have the sense not to go too far into investigations. But when there's one that does, it's like, why are you talking? Why are you sharing this data with me? Why are you sharing this information with me? What's the point? It's great that they're transparent, and often they're explaining. They see their weaknesses. It's like, this is good, but you do
Hmm.
realize that what's published here is candid opinion on the results, and yeah,
No, you're right.
it's quite amazing. Yeah, quite amazing. But all of that stuff, or all of the, because you build rapport with these people. Most people do. You think if they married my daughters or whatever, that would be fine. But they just like every single field, whether it's doctors. I can give you so many examples of doctors or dentists, financial advisors. I know a lot of stories about how their biases affect their behavior, and so really working on seeing what's going wrong and where they're not going right, or where their weaknesses, or where their sales side is covering up the real truth. Um, it's that part I found very just as interesting as sitting there digging into the data. It's or more so. The psychology side is really quite fascinating.
It's like playing poker.
Yeah, really, really. But it kind of reminds me about, I don't know if you ever saw the TV series Columbo. It's like he says that murderers only get one chance, whereas he practices hundreds and hundreds of times. And that's how I feel about this. Hundreds and hundreds of times I've investigated these, and it gives a massive edge.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's a good question for you. What's the single biggest challenge that you face with Fourth Way?
Um, well, I would say that's probably sort of partly come up really because um, it's really, for me, it is about the emotional side. It's a modest business run leanly. It's not challenging to run, but it drains a lot of energy from me. And it's really simply the fear, what if I let individual investors down? It's emotionally difficult for me, especially if it happens very rarely, thankfully. But when there's very harsh criticism of me personally or Fourth Way, it's almost unbearable. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
So the biggest risk is that just the emotional need to put up with simply the constant worry about my impact on investors' portfolios and whether I've made some mistake. And it's completely irrational. My rational brain knows, look, this is all fine, that we're doing great stuff, and it's a very, very solid asset class. Everything is good. But the subconscious is a very powerful thing, right? And it drains me. So yeah, I have to maintain that sort of strength. I guess you could say, to sum it up, really, is that the biggest weakness to Fourth Way is that it doesn't survive without me. It's too small, so if I'm gone, that's it.
Is it just you running the business, or do you have help?
I was about to say I'm the only one who's full time. I'm not even full time anymore.
Yeah.
But at its peak, there were 13 others of us, and now there's more, 6 or 7. But each of them do a lot less work. Overall, this year, the start of this year in particular, I stepped up. I no longer spend over half the week doing CEO things and growth things and trying to find other products and all that kind of stuff. So I focus a lot more on simply the due diligence and the analysis. So the overall number of hours, when added up with others who support me, of the actual work that investors want from us, which is proper assessments of the platforms and repeated due diligence and revisiting platforms and so on. There's more of that now than at any other time, but a lot of the work in just trying to make some sort of much bigger business out of it with a lot of different products, that's all gone now. So it's just, this is what we do. We provide the ratings research, and I tell you, that's it's a load off anyway.
Yeah. What was the reason for kind of the step back in that respect?
because so many experiments and so much money going into those experiments and so many hours and effort, especially on my part, with no success.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that all the time, all investors wanted is that we just focus on what we already did from the start, just focus more on it. That was all they wanted. It took me 10 years to learn that. Can you believe it? No one followed Fourth Way. If it took me 10 years to work that out, then I'm too stupid.
They always say when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Right. Yeah.
right? So
Okay. Well,
yeah.
they've seen the stupidity now, so they believe that, right?
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna run through these questions real quick with
Hmm.
you. If there's anything you don't want to answer or can't, just say, I don't
Oh,
know. It's okay. That's totally fine. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, I know there's like 25, 26 people watching live right now. So hit that thumbs up if you haven't. This will get archived too on the YouTube channel, Neil, that you can share to
awesome.
all of your Fourth Way subscribers, which is good because they get to see you in the flesh, which they probably do. Have you done many of these type of things or not?
No, no, I haven't done any. I did. I've done a couple of TV interviews, but no, not really. No,
Nothing like
no,
this.
no, no,
That's
no,
good.
no,
Okay, good. I'm the
no.
first.
I made an exception for you, Lawrence.
Well, I hope it hasn't been too painful for you. You know, I try to make it light and have fun, and
Well, I still haven't brushed my teeth, so that's your
they
fault.
look pretty clean. Okay. Question from Chimpo Naughty. Did you enjoy your holidays? And did you go to Oktoberfest this year?
Ah, Oktoberfest. No, I haven't been to Oktoberfest for some time. No, I really, this year was my best holidays in a very long time. I had a wonderful trip through Europe on sleeper trains with my daughters, and took more time off this year than I've done for a very long time. I mean, really. And also, I had more time off in a row than I've ever had in my adult life, and I think it was only 16 days, and that's the longest holiday in a row I've ever had.
No
That's
way.
quite astounding, really, isn't it?
How old are you,
Yeah.
Neil? You mind me asking?
I'm 40, I'm just turning 46 in a few months.
Yeah, we're getting to that time where you have to take the time to
Yeah,
enjoy.
well, it's also like, well, what am I living my life for?
Yeah,
It's not as if I haven't lived it, but it's still, there is a limit where you need to take proper breaks, and so
yeah.
I'm
There's
learning
more to
that this
life
year.
than work, people out there. If you're listening to this, I'm so backwards, right? I try to work as little as possible because I don't want to spend my entire life working and then die. For what? You have kids. I don't have any kids, so if I had kids, maybe I'd think differently. I could leave them some assets, whatnot. But you got to get out there and you know enjoy
Yeah,
life like you
sure.
are
Mm,
starting to do.
yeah. Mm, mm.
Let's see here. Mr. Helium says, how much harder is it to resource a peer-to-peer review website now that the income from referral links has disappeared? I think he's talking about
Yeah,
monetization,
I
which,
get that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the sufficient income from the flat ratings fees and from web and email advertising and donations. So, affiliate income isn't all that much. Um, and that only goes towards when platforms say, can we pay for more? For more, we say yes, you can pay for more coverage, but not better coverage, and so that puts them off too. So,
yeah,
you know, it's uh, yeah, it's fine. I'd say it's more stable now, especially since cutting off all the expensive attempts to grow the business, but also through just the different revenue channels. It's more stable now than it's probably ever been.
that's good.
Fourth way, yeah,
That's good. Some good questions, people.
yeah,
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 these
really,
are great.
yeah. At
Um,
least someone's done good questions today, Lauren.
that's a good one. Are there any additional reviewers on your team? Are there any additional reviewers on your team aside of yourself? And do you perform any on-site company visits?
Yeah. Okay. So these days, I'm the main analyst. There are a couple of people who do sort of non-specialist research that help me, and then there are some freelancers who I pay to do some other stuff. But the main guy, Lee, is dreadfully expensive, and he doesn't offer me the discount he used to do. But he's ludicrously expensive. So uh, it's just a few bits of analysis from two non-specialists, one specialist in equities mostly, but he also does a lot of the looking at the company account stuff, and then Lee, the credit risk specialist. Yeah, and then bits and pieces from other people occasionally, or a lawyer for various different things. So hiring in as needed. Um, but yeah, the actual team of writers is a lot smaller than it used to be, and analysts.
Do you ever do on-site? Have you ever been to visit any of these companies in person?
Yes, yes, but for a lot of different psychological reasons, I try and avoid those sorts of things. For example, uh, often the first contact will be audio only because some research shows that we're better able to correctly identify lies when only hearing voice. It's counterintuitive because you think, oh yeah, seeing the face, but actually most people, they're more likely to be misled by people being much better at hiding their lies on their face than you think. There's only a portion of super recognizers who can spot them more accurately. So we start with that, and then it can be video. But then when you start doing things like going to their offices and they say, do you want to go to dinner or lunch and so on? Firstly, we have a policy that if they do that, we have to contribute the same value of that event to a charity or something. So it's not something I want to do all the time. But secondly, you just have to be careful about the psychological impact of people giving you things and so on.
Yeah.
And of course, there is simply the matter that I've been in Germany the whole time, so I have to go to the UK most of the time for these things.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a good way to avoid that whole messy thing, because you do need to build rapport with these people, and you recognize when you're talking to them these are nice people, but often you have to say very negative things about them. That's what you have to publish. It's like, this is just unfortunate. And so there's an awful lot of psychological things we do to protect, to protect against our own biases, whether it's financial or personal or emotional, from impacting the quality of what we put out there, and the honesty and the truth to that. We have a monthly meeting to reassess, is it enough for trustworthiness and for our reputation, or what else can we do to add to that? So a lot of those things are psychological.
Yeah, I know. I got schmoozed by a few platforms in my day, and they took me to some nice lunches, Neil. Definitely swayed my opinion sometimes, but I still wrote the truth.
I do think that one of the best psychological defenses of Fourth Way is simply having me here, because I do have a personality that's resistant to it. When I was at the Motley Fool, I was taken out a lot, and the Motley Fool was fine with me doing that. But every single company that took me out, I wrote at best a neutral piece about them, usually negative. There was never a positive one. So they didn't get through to me.
So if Elon Musk took you out for a nice dinner, would you say nice things about Tesla?
I've already said bad things about their bonds, so
okay.
He wouldn't take me out to dinner.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't. I don't think he eats dinner, anyways.
That's right. No, he's working 36 hours a day.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go through these quick so I don't keep you too long. I know you're supposed to be in bed by now. Is there a platform you'd like to review but you haven't been able to?
Oh God, I mean, there are loads, aren't there? There are loads, and it's so frustrating when you get quite close, and then they just say, and that they just do. It's about resources. You do believe some of them. You think, I'm pretty sure it is resources, not they're trying to hide something, like Shojin and Wise Alpha, and who else? I mean, those two, for example. It's always disappointing when they just don't find out. And even folk to folk, yes, we've reviewed them, but never had their data, and they don't provide their data, so it's just not the same. It's like,
yeah.
And so those three, I'd love to have them one day manage to find the resources and time to get to do more with us. But maybe the new CEO of Folk to Folk, maybe he'll be willing to do that. I certainly should be sure he'd grant me an interview. But whether they'd go the whole hog, I don't know.
See. Maybe I'll get him on here and we can all do it together. We're like, come on.
We'll save time. You say 2 in 1, all right?
Yeah. I already emailed him. I said, come on, let's get the CEO on.
Yeah.
Not yet. He's not ready.
Yeah, well, I can understand that.
Yeah.
We need to give him a few months to settle in, don't we? And
I
think Roy's not even quit till for
January,
another month
right?
or so, is he? So, yeah.
Okay. What's your current prospects? If you can answer this, maybe you don't want to, but if you don't want to, just say, I plead the fifth. What's your own current view of the prospects for those stuck in assets, capital, property crowd, and maybe even cufflinks? Should I be worried as I am worried?
So when platforms pull out. So Property Crowd, we just never had any contact with, just none.
Oh, it's
So I
crowd
couldn't.
property. Crowd property.
Oh, crowd property.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So with Assets Capital, then, when it comes to platforms that are no longer around, the contact just disappears, and so does the data. Everything goes. We can't really track what happens there, although we try to piece it together. One of my colleagues who does a bit of writing, Matt, keeps tries to keep a database as best he can, investigating what how it's gone for investors. But it's all very superficial, because they pass out of our ability to analyze them at that point. So I can't say. I was about to say what I know, but I'm presuming most people in chat are all in P2P independent forums, and I think that it was someone who was on there who was talking to me and said that it seems to be going a bit better or something. So these are the kinds of feedback that I get, is just a little anecdotal bits. It's really that's all I can get from it now. Crowd property, I'm still. So there's another reassessment coming much sooner than usual. It's coming this year again, even though there was only one a short time ago, and we're going to monitor them more regularly. And that one, I really think that you should probably wait for that reassessment to get a better idea on it. The assessment a few months ago showed that it looks bad, but it could certainly be worse. But in this time, there's been a lot of background pulling more threads together. And so we need to see how the pros and cons weigh out, because there's more sort of good stuff and certainly more bad stuff. And so it's piecing that all together and settling down to take a lot of time to reassess that one yet again, to see where that is. So you'll get an update again on that this year. And who was the third platform?
Cufflink, yeah.
Cufflink, Cufflink, my main problem with Cufflink is a different one to the one I thought it was, which is that a few weeks ago, it looked like they had quite a lot of large outstanding bad debt, but it turns out a lot of that is that the data they've been providing has not been of the right quality. And actually, they're like it was like seven figures, 10 million or more, something of the bad debt had been repaid. But so it's like their data was making them look a lot worse than they actually are. And you might think, great, that's good. But what isn't good is their data quality sucked. So, that's not good. So that's another one that's going to be looked at even sooner than crowd property. You'll get more of an update on that once that's pieced together. But they simply need to do better with their data. Otherwise, what's it all mean? You can see sort of how that happened. There've been a lot of changes again, CEO switching, but a lot of changes with personnel underneath. And I think that there are a couple of changes as they thought of changing strategy, but then changed their minds and changed back. And then there was a cycle, and the handover of the data, I think, went wrong at some point, and that's why it's not the quality it should be. The head of collections there, she's one of those people that you like to have contact with at platforms, because she's very straightforward. Natalie Weeks, that's right. She's very straightforward. And you want straightforward people who just, okay, someone could put on saying it like it is, but when you have enough conversations, you can say this probably is how she really is. And so you do want to have people like that at the company that you can talk to. And she is very down to earth about her collections, which means how she's collecting on bad debts, and how they're going, and that combined with some corrections for the data shows that the last update, which was already fine, they made a lot of changes recently that I think have perturbed investors, but it's likely to be even better or substantially better than the last update we did on them a few weeks ago. But another full review is coming later. Obviously, that their data's not right. That needs to be corrected. But they've taken big steps in the past to correct big mistakes. Lots of years ago, there was the governance issues, for example. I don't know if you recall that. Mm-hmm. But they took massive steps to fix that. And they did. So I guess this could be part of the first big trial for the new CEO, Rwinda, who's been there a long time, and he would have been the guy in charge of compliance and legal side at the time when the governance needed to be fixed. So he's been through that once before, and obviously we can hope was behind it and for it. Yeah, we'll see. But the update on that is the next one is coming up even soon. The crowd popped you on. I'm sorry I can't give you more on assets capital.
Hey, I mean, thank you for your transparency. Oftentimes I'll ask people questions and they'll just kind of skate around the question. They don't want to put themselves out there, and I'm always just, the way I see it is the way I tell it, but not everybody's like that. You have gotten a lot of nice comments. Hopefully you'll watch this back and read, how many people are saying nice things, and they're really glad that you do what you do, and please hang in there and continue to do that. We've been going,
I'm there for you.
We've been going for like over an hour. So is there anything else you want people to know about Fourth Way? It's your plan.
Well, thanks for asking. I think it overlaps really with your previous questions. I'm emotionally invested. Whatever research we publish, even if you disagree with some of it sometimes, I'm only doing this for individual investors. The platforms can come and go as they please as far as I care. But it's vital for my own mental health that I have a net positive impact and be a force for good, and that's what Fourth Way is based on.
You're doing a great job, Neil, so thank you for the work that you do. You certainly helped me out personally, and I think any information and education that we can provide to people is super key.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think between all the resources that investors have, especially on the internet for it, I think they've got an awful lot to get to understand what they might be getting into.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you.
I really wish you the best. Hopefully in the future you'll come back again. In a few months.
I'll try not to put you off for so long next time.
Jeez. I was afraid you were going to no-show on me tonight. I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no. No, that would be an awful thing to do. No, I wouldn't do that.
I didn't think you would.
No.
I didn't think, but thank you so much, and best of luck to you. Keep up the good work. We'll see you again sometime in the future and get an update, see how Fourth Way's doing. Everybody go to fourthway.com, sign up, be a subscriber, and support Neil.
Fourthway.co.uk would be better.
Is that, what did I say, .com? Fourthway.co.uk. Go there. Don't go to the other website. Support Neil, okay? All right, everybody. Thank you, Neil. Take care.
Have a nice afternoon.
All right,
I'll go brush my teeth.
Bye-bye. Bye. So there you have it, everybody. Would that be considered a world exclusive? I don't know. I think it would be. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy that? Was that good? I've been trying to get Neil on forever, and I'll tell you a funny story tonight. What I usually do about half an hour before the stream starts, I ask the people to come on and do a little test audio so I can make sure the audio is working, everything, their video is good. And he didn't show up, and I thought, oh, God, he's going to be a no-show. And I'm not going to have anything to talk about tonight, but screw it. I'll still come on here and give you my time, give you my efforts. I really hope you enjoyed it. So that's all I got for you tonight. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thanks for showing up and giving some really great questions. And again, go to fourthway.co.uk if you're not already subscribed to them. Go subscribe, support Neil. And the Harley cam is broken tonight, so you're not going to see anything. You're just going to see black. But yeah. Anyway, I'll see you next time, okay? Take care.